It's amazing how fast things can change. A conflict that started with just one single strike is only weeks later completely redrawing the map, not just of power, but of energy and technology too. What kicked off in the Middle East is now reshaping the entire global order, and it really seems to all boil down to one incredibly audacious goal.
And here it is. This one sentence, dropped just a few days ago, really cuts right to the heart of it all, doesn't it? We could take the oil in Iran. I mean, forget all the complex geopolitics for a second. This tells you that beyond the battlefield, this is a war for control. Control of the world's most critical resources, and for the global economy, well, the stakes just couldn't be any higher. Okay, so to really get our heads around how we got here, we're going to walk through the 5 key acts of this crisis. We'll start with a surprise attack, then look at how the battlefield just exploded, how oil became a weapon, the really shocking diplomatic realignment, and finally, how this is all forging something called the Pax Silica. All right, first up, the surprise attack. And look, this thing didn't build up slowly. No, it started with a bang. One single, high-stakes operation that basically lit the fuse on the entire region. So what was that spark? Well, the inciting incident was just staggering in its audacity. Get this. While nuclear negotiations were supposedly happening, a joint U.S.-Israeli strike targets and kills Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. I mean, that's a decapitation strike, aimed right at the very top. An act like that, well, it pretty much guaranteed an immediate and incredibly severe response. And that response? Oh, it came. And it came faster and harder than a lot of people were expecting. That first strike didn't anything. No way. It started a fire that just spread like wildfire across the whole Middle East with unbelievable speed. I mean, just look at the timeline for the first week alone. It was a blur. On day 1, Iran just unleashes this massive barrage of drones and missiles, hitting U.S. bases in 6 different countries plus Israel. By day 2, a drone hits a British base all the way out in Cyprus. Then, day 5, they go after the radar bases for the U.S. THAAD missile defense systems, basically trying to blind them. And then, by day 7, they switch gears, vowing to halt strikes on their neighbors, but only if they're not attacked from their territory. You see? This wasn't just chaos. This was a very calculated strategic response. And at the heart of Iran's strategy is just some really brutal arithmetic. Look at these numbers. They can launch wave after wave of these Shahed drones, which cost, $50,000 a pop? And to stop them, the U.S. and its allies have to fire off a Patriot interceptor that costs $4 million, or a THAAD interceptor for $12 million. It's economic warfare, but fought in the sky. You can have the most advanced defense system on the planet, but you can literally be bled dry financially by a swarm of cheap attackers. And just to prove they could still land a heavy punch, even weeks into this thing, check this out. On March 27th, and this is the kicker, the day after U.S. officials claimed they had neutralized Iran's military, a coordinated strike hits the huge critical Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia.
And this was no random hit. Iran was surgical here. They targeted the absolute logistical backbone of the U.S. air campaign. So multiple KC-135 refueling tankers were damaged. You need those for any long-range missions. But the real prize? They destroyed an E-3 Sentry. That's an AWACS plane. Think of it as the flying brain, the command and control center for all air operations. So this wasn't just about blowing up equipment. No, this was a direct shot at the very nervous system of American air power in the entire region.
Okay, so the military damage is serious, for sure. But the war's most powerful weapon, it isn't a missile, it's a barrel of oil. The conflict very quickly shifted from a physical battlefield to the global economic front line. And it all really boils down to this one number, 90%. Just let that sink in. 90% of Iran's oil exports flow through one single vulnerable point, the terminal at Kharg Island. It's the country's economic heart, and believe me, everybody knows it. Now, to get that oil from Kharg Island out to the rest of us, tankers have to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And this little waterway, 1/5 of all the petroleum the entire world consumes passes right through here. It is, and this is no exaggeration, the single most important oil choke point on the planet. And Iran's new supreme leader knows exactly how valuable this choke point is. This threat from him makes it crystal clear. By threatening to close the strait, Iran isn't just taking on the U.S. military. No, they're holding a knife to the main artery of the entire global economy and basically daring the world to do something about it.
So while this insane game of chicken is playing out in the Gulf, the war is causing these massive tectonic shifts in global diplomacy. I mean, old alliances are cracking, and brand new, totally unexpected partnerships are being formed right in the middle of this crisis.
And you can see this in what I'm calling a tale of two allies. It's just a stunning reversal of fortunes. On one side, you have Pakistan. Just recently, they were on the outs with Washington. Now, they've played a masterful game. Their army chief gets a warm welcome at the White House because they've positioned themselves as this vital back channel to both Iran and China. And then you have India, a key U.S. strategic partner, suddenly facing American scorn, getting hit with huge tariffs and openly disagreeing with the U.S. president. It's a complete diplomatic flip happening right before our eyes.
But all of this, the strikes, the economic warfare, the diplomatic musical chairs, it's all building towards something even bigger. Out of the chaos of this war, a totally new kind of global alliance is starting to emerge. And this one isn't built on old treaties. It's built on new tech.
They're calling it Pax Silica. Think of it like this. It's a U.S.-led accord that has two main goals. Goal number one, lock down the global supply chains for all the critical minerals you need to run our modern world. For chips, batteries, the whole shebang. And goal number two, dominate the future of artificial intelligence. So at its core, it's an alliance designed to build a global tech ecosystem that doesn't have to rely on China.
And if you just look at who's in this club, you can see the strategy pretty clearly. You've got the founding members, the US, UK, Australia, the usual military allies. But then you bring in the tech giants, Japan and South Korea. And you add in key Middle Eastern partners, Israel and the UAE. And now they're sending out invites to heavy hitters like India, Canada, and the EU. This is the blueprint for a whole new kind of global power bloc, one defined not by armies, but by control over technology and the minerals that make it all possible.
So, this whole conflict in 2026 might have started over oil, but it looks like its real legacy will be the dawn of a totally new era of competition. One where alliances aren't forged in steel anymore, but in silicon. The front lines are literally shifting from geopolitics to technopolitics. And that forces us all to ask a really important new question. In a world that's being reordered by conflict, are these new techno-alliances the real superpowers of the future?